Joining us from Paris to talk about all this is Victor Ga. He's the director of the China National Association of International Studies. With us here in Washington is the president and global affairs correspondent for Feature Story News, Simon Marks. Financial analyst and columnist Louise Cooper joins us from London, and with us from Beijing is Cui Hongjian. He heads the European Studies Department at the China Institute of International Studies. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Dr. Xu, let me start with you. You have been quoted as saying China and Britain will upgrade their relationship and sign big deals during President Xi's trip. This is, of course, a big trip for the Chinese leader. What can we expect from this high-level visit?
Yeah, also we know that this is a very important visit by Chinese president to UK, and also this year is the beginning point for this second decade for this strategic partners. I mean, between China and the UK, and so I think firstly I am looking forward a kind of increase of the political mutual trust. Especially, I think that there will be some political document to fix this, the guideline for the further development for the bilateral relations. Secondly, also I understand that China and the UK needed to, get more coordination on, each other, especially for this development strategy. Also, we know that recently, UK government launched a huge, economic stimulus plan, including infrastructure and new power and high-speed railway. And also at the same time that China has its One Belt, One Road initiative, and we can find out so many similarities between two plans and the two projects. So I'm looking forward that there will be more and more cooperation.
Victor, the relationship between China and Britain has evolved in so many ways over the last 10 years. How would you describe that relationship right now?
Well, first of all, the relations between China and UK are not only important for China and UK themselves, but it also has global implications. Between China and UK, China depends on UK a lot, not only in the European framework, but also globally. London is still a very important international securities and financial market, and it can help not only Chinese companies, but now when China is in the middle of this promotion of the One Belt, One Road initiative, many concepts along this One Belt, One Road initiative can eventually raise financing in UK, and UK is very committed to turn the London financial center into a renminbi settlement center. So I think not only in the financial sector, but as mentioned in infrastructure, in power, etc., the two countries can cooperate to their mutual benefit. But UK being the closest ally of the United States, better relations between China and UK may also have a throwback on China-US relations, and UK being relatively independent in handling its relations with China will also have meanings and implications on how the United States will eventually handle its relations to China. So I think President Xi Jinping's state visit to the United Kingdom this time, the first state visit in about 10 years' time, will really promote China-UK relationship to a much higher level of analysis, and both countries will benefit, and the world at large will also benefit from this stronger relation between China and UK.
Louise, when we look at the economic relationship between these two countries, how big is Chinese investment in Britain, and where exactly are the Chinese putting their money?
Well, the big thing we're expecting next week is this multi-billion-pound investment in nuclear plants. So our Chancellor, the Finance Minister, Chancellor Osborne, was only in China a few weeks ago. And at that stage, he gave a government £2 billion guarantee to this nuclear project that China is funding. The idea is that there are two nuclear power stations already in the UK, and potentially China could build and run a third. So that's the big deal we're looking for. We're also looking for, as you just heard, the City of London is the world's biggest foreign exchange trading market, and it desperately wants to be the big centre for trading renminbi, the Chinese currency, outside of Asia. So the City of London, also a powerhouse. And there's a little personal story here as well, because when the finance minister, Chancellor Osborne, was out in China only a couple of weeks ago, who was by his side but the famous Jim O'Neill, the man that came up with the BRIC acronym: Brazil, Russia, India and China, and of course ex-Goldman Sachs partner. Goldman Sachs seems to send their staff all over the world in all kinds of political areas. And in fact, Jim O'Neill has now been given a Lord. He's become a member of the House of Lords. He's now Lord O'Neill. But he is next to, during that trip, he was next to Osborne all the way through when he met Chinese state officials. And of course, he is the one saying to Osborne and to British business, look, the growth is not in Europe. The growth is in these BRIC countries, and particular China. And if we want the UK to grow faster and better in the future, we need to have much better commercial ties with China. And that sort of Jim O'Neill, ex-Goldman banker, Chancellor Osborne relationship, I think, is really driving Osborne's desire to get business done with China.
Simon, this is a big state visit. The Chinese president, British royalty, state banquets, rolling out the red carpet, lots of pomp and circumstance. What can we expect?
Well, look, I mean, if you thought that the Xi Jinping visit to the United States generated terrific imagery, you'll be blown away by the imagery that any sort of state visit to the UK generates, because we do, the Brits, that pomp and ceremony so well. So the imagery will be extraordinary. And some of the themes that Xi Jinping's going to encounter in Britain, as Louise was suggesting there, are very similar to the themes that he encountered here in the United States. He's going to be facing a business community that is going to be asking questions about China's economic outlook, particularly in light of the stock market difficulties over the course of the last few months. They want reassurance that the situation economically in China is stable. There's also another dynamic to this visit, and that is Britain's place in the European Union. You can't divorce this visit from that overriding question that hangs over the British political spectrum. Is Britain staying in or getting out of the European Union? China really wants it to stay in, but it's tough to see how openly Xi Jinping can articulate that message, at least publicly.
And China will be watching that very, very closely. Dr. Xu, that is a pressing geopolitical issue for China, Britain's place in the European Union. Let's listen to what China's Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, Wang Chao, had to say on this issue.
China has maintained good bilateral relations with Britain and also the EU. China has resolutely and consistently supported the European integration process. So we would like to see Europe as one bloc and continue to play an even important role in international affairs.
So, Dr. Xu, if Britain were to leave the European Union, what impact would that have on bilateral relations between China and the United Kingdom?
Well, I think firstly it's a kind of a domestic affairs for UK. But of course, I think China will keep a very close concern on this issue, because as we understand, both UK and EU are very, very important partners to China, including trade and investment. So I think that, of course, I think no matter which kind of result of this referendum in UK, and China always want to say that, okay, UK and EU could do something more to get joint efforts with China to counter the protectionism. Especially, I think that so far UK has a very, very remarkable image in the eyes of China as a very, very strong support to this kind of liberalization of trade and investment. So I do believe that China hopes that the UK could play a more active role in the EU to help China and the European Union's relations on trade and investment.
Victor, the United Kingdom is China's second largest trading partner in the European Union. Germany is first. The UK is also the most popular destination for Chinese investment ties. So how critical to the Chinese economy are these ties with the United Kingdom?
Well, first of all, I think from the Chinese perspective, making investments in UK, and for some people to migrate to UK, to send their kids to study in UK, is something very natural. English definitely helps in this connection. And also, on the part of UK, there is a particular attitude of welcoming people from outside of UK to do business, to settle down in UK, including people from China. Particularly in the area of trade and investment, I would say many Chinese business people probably would deploy more money to Germany, where there are more opportunities in the high-tech sector. However, UK stands out, in a very shining way in terms of financial services that they provide in the European framework, but also globally as a financial center in the world. Therefore, I think China has a particular way of looking at UK as a final destination of the Chinese investment, tourism, for example, education, etc. And in this way, UK is indispensable. And also, I would say that the particular relationship between China and UK, and also UK's very important strategic alliance with the United States, all these things kick in to help make China-UK relations a very special and very extraordinary pair of relations in today's world. And I think President Xi Jinping and his very distinguished wife, Peng Liyuan, etc., also see very particularly the importance of China-UK relations and are personally committed to promoting China-UK relations as a very extraordinary pair of relations in today's world.